Heather O'Rourke, the angelic girl with blue eyes and the classic line, "They're here," in Poltergeist, has captivated many audiences. But behind that halo is a heartbreaking tragedy. She passed away at the age of 12, leaving many unanswered questions. Was Heather's death just a medical accident, or was it related to the haunting Poltergeist curse? Let's explore her short but turbulent life in today's video. Childhood and fateful turning point. Heather Michelle O'Rourke was born on December 27, 1975, in San Diego, California, USA. She grew up in an ordinary family with no one working in the entertainment industry. Her father, Michael O'Rourke, was a construction worker, and her mother, Kathleen O'Rourke, was an office worker and housewife. Heather has an older sister named Tammy O'Rourke, who is a few years older than her. Since childhood, Heather has been described by everyone around her as a cute, smart, and lively girl. Although she has never attended any professional acting classes, she has shown natural acting ability and lively facial expressions. Heather's family lives simply in Santee, a peaceful suburb of San Diego, where she had a happy childhood with her family. Although Heather did not come from a family with a tradition of art, her career began thanks to a chance event, a life-changing encounter. In 1980, when she was only 4 years old, Heather O'Rourke had a fateful encounter with Steven Spielberg, one of the greatest directors in Hollywood. The story took place when Heather's mother brought her older sister Tammy O'Rourke to an audition at an MGM studio. Heather only accompanied her mother to observe and wait for her sister, but it was she who caught Spielberg's attention. Director Steven Spielberg recalled that when he entered the crew's cafeteria, he happened to see Heather sitting there having lunch. He was immediately attracted by her chubby face, big, bright eyes, and lovely appearance. When talking, he realized that Heather was smart, lovely, and very intelligent. Recognizing that she had special qualities, Spielberg asked Heather's mother if she had ever acted before. Kathleen, Heather's mother, replied that her daughter had no professional acting experience. Nevertheless, Spielberg decided to audition Heather for the horror film Poltergeist, 1982, that he was producing. Initially, Heather did not show much concentration during the audition, but when Spielberg asked her to express fear most realistically, Heather surprised him and the entire crew with her amazing acting ability. Thanks to her naturalness and incredible ability to get into character, Heather was chosen to play Carol Ann Freeling, an important character in the film. Following the success of the first film, Heather continued to play the role of Carol Ann Freeling in the sequel Poltergeist 2: The Other Side, 1986. The film continued to receive great attention from the audience, earning over $40 million at the box office. Although it did not achieve the same strong appeal as the first part, the film still helped to consolidate Heather's position in the entertainment industry. She continued to receive love thanks to her natural acting, especially her ability to convey the fear and innocence of the character Carol Ann. In 1988, Heather continued to participate in the third and final part of the series, Poltergeist 3. However, the filming process took place under the circumstances that Heather's health was seriously declining. Despite many health problems, she still professionally completed the role without showing any signs of fatigue or pain. Unfortunately, this was also the last film in Heather's short career, as she passed away before the film was released. In addition to the Poltergeist series, Heather also appeared in many famous television shows in the 1980s. She participated in Happy Days, a classic American sitcom, where she played a friend of the main character. Heather also appeared in Webster, a popular TV series about family life, and Fantasy Island, a series famous for its mysterious and fantasy stories. These roles helped Heather continue to shine, affirming her talent not only in horror films, but also in many other genres. She was considered one of the most promising child stars in Hollywood. with her career on the rise before tragedy struck. Heather is not only a talented child actress, but also a girl with a kind and lovely heart. Although she has been famous since childhood, she is still very modest and polite and always brings joy to everyone around her. Her co-stars and the film crew all commented that Heather is a well-behaved, cute, and very professional girl when working. Although she is only a few years old, she always focuses and makes an effort in every scene, never showing signs of fatigue or irritability. Heather's mother also shared that she is a very emotional person, always caring for her family and friends. Heather loves animals, especially dogs and cats. She once dreamed of becoming a writer when she grew up, if she did not pursue acting. However, Heather's promising career was cut short by unfortunate events in her life, leading to a tragic end. So what happened to Heather O'Rourke? Why did a promising child star die so young? Unusual health signs. In late 1987, Heather O'Rourke began to show worrying signs of health. At first, she often felt severe stomach pain, especially after eating. Not long after, Heather's face began to swell abnormally, making her look different from her previous image. In addition, she often felt nauseous and vomited, sometimes even without eating anything. These symptoms became more and more severe over time, making her family extremely worried. Because Heather was still participating in film projects, people around her thought that her health condition could just be due to stress from work and an unstable diet while filming. However, Heather herself did not realize that she was suffering from a serious illness. Faced with unusual symptoms, Heather's family took her to the hospital for a checkup. Doctors initially diagnosed her with Crohn's disease, a chronic inflammatory bowel disease that can cause abdominal pain, diarrhea, and weight loss. It is incurable, but can be controlled with medication and diet. So Heather was prescribed corticosteroids to reduce inflammation and help control her symptoms. However, this turned out to be a serious misdiagnosis. Heather did not have Crohn's disease at all, but a much more serious condition, congenital intestinal stenosis. This is a rare condition that causes a narrowing of part of the small intestine, causing a blockage in the digestive tract. If not detected early and operated on promptly, the condition can lead to serious and life-threatening infections. The biggest problem was that doctors did not detect the disease when Heather was a baby, and even when she began to have obvious symptoms, they focused on treating Crohn's disease without further testing. Heather's family was also unaware of the potential danger that threatened their daughter. Trusting the doctor's diagnosis, they continued to let her work on film projects, unaware that her health condition was becoming increasingly critical. Despite being treated according to the Crohn's disease regimen, Heather's symptoms showed no signs of improvement. Her face continued to swell, a side effect of corticosteroids, but could also be a sign of fluid accumulation in the body due to intestinal narrowing. During the filming of Poltergeist 3, Heather often felt tired, dizzy, and had severe abdominal pain, but she still tried to complete the film without showing her discomfort. Unfortunately, it was too late. No one in the family or the film crew could have guessed that the terrible disease was silently taking her life. Heather continues to live and work as a normal actress, but inside her body, the congenital intestinal stenosis is gradually wearing her down, preparing her for an inevitable tragedy, sudden death. On the morning of February 1st, 1988, Heather O'Rourke woke up in a state of extreme fatigue. She was writhing in pain, clutching her stomach, feeling as if something was squeezing her body. The pain was getting worse and worse, making it almost impossible for Heather to stand up. Not only that, she was vomiting constantly. Her body was shaking, she was pale, and her face was unusually swollen. Heather's mother, Kathleen O'Rourke, immediately realized that something was very serious. Heather had had abdominal pain symptoms before, but never this severe. She panicked, tried to calm her daughter, but at the same time called an ambulance to take her to the nearest hospital, Children's Hospital of San Diego. On the way to the hospital, Heather's condition worsened. She could barely open her eyes. Her breathing was heavy and weak. When the ambulance arrived, the paramedics immediately placed the little girl on a stretcher and rushed her to the emergency room in critical condition. As soon as the doctors examined Heather, they discovered a horrifying truth. Her intestines were completely blocked and severely infected. This was the result of congenital intestinal stenosis, which the doctors had previously misdiagnosed as Crohn's disease. Due to the lack of timely treatment, the infection had spread throughout her body, causing sepsis, an extremely dangerous complication. The doctors realized that Heather needed immediate surgery to remove the necrotic intestines and save her life. Everything happened under extreme tension. Heather was wheeled into the operating room with a sharp drop in blood pressure, and her body was almost unresponsive. However, because the toxins from the infection had spread into her bloodstream, Heather's small body could not withstand the shock. While doctors were trying to perform surgery, Heather suddenly went into cardiac arrest. Doctors immediately performed cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, trying everything they could to revive her. But Heather had no pulse, and after several minutes of trying, the doctor officially declared her dead. Heather O'Rourke breathed her last at 2:43 p.m. on February 1, 1988, at Children's Hospital, Los Angeles. She was only 12 years old. When the news of Heather's death was announced, Hollywood was shocked. No one could believe that the adorable girl with innocent blue eyes from the Poltergeist series would pass away in such a tragic way. Her sudden death shocked the entire medical community because congenital intestinal atresia could have been detected and treated if diagnosed early. Heather O'Rourke's official cause of death was determined to be septic shock due to an improperly diagnosed congenital intestinal obstruction. The press at that time reported it loudly. Millions of fans expressed their endless grief at the passing of a talented child star. Heather's death was not only a personal tragedy, but also became a warning about the importance of accurate diagnosis and attention to the health of young children. From an ordinary girl to a bright star in the film industry, then suddenly passing away at a young age, Heather O'Rourke's life is a story that is both beautiful and full of tears. But perhaps the most haunting thing is what happened after she passed away. Conspiracies and rumors after the death. Following the tragic passing of Heather O'Rourke, one of the most widely circulated theories is the Poltergeist curse. Many believe that the film is not simply a horror film, but is haunted by a supernatural force, leading to a series of terrifying deaths and accidents for the cast. One of the most popular theories about the curse comes from the information that the producers used real human bones in some scenes instead of plastic props. This has given rise to speculation that the disturbed spirits were angry, causing a series of bad luck and tragedies for the participants of the film. The most controversial scene is in the first part of Poltergeist, 1982, when the character Diane Freeling, played by Jo Beth Williams, is dragged into a lake full of corpses. In this scene, the skeleton in the water was a real human skeleton, and Williams was unaware of this until after filming was completed. Williams later said that she was terrified when she learned about this fact. Not only that, after each day of filming, when she returned home, she constantly felt that there was a force watching her, forcing her to turn on all the lights at night to sleep. The cast and production team knew about the use of real bones, but the decision was made for low-budget reasons, as real human bones were much cheaper than plastic or rubber props. This action raised concerns that the film had offended the spirits, making the curse more plausible in the eyes of spiritual believers. After Poltergeist was released, many members of the film crew met with haunting deaths further reinforcing the belief that the film was indeed cursed. Dominique Dunne, murdered by her boyfriend shortly after the film's release. Dominique Dunne, who played Carol Ann's sister Dana Freeling in Poltergeist, was brutally murdered by her ex-boyfriend on October 30th, 1982, just months after the film's release. Her boyfriend, John Thomas Sweeney, was a famous chef, but he tended to be violent and controlling. After Dominique broke up with him, he broke into her home and strangled her right outside her door. Dominique fell into a coma for 5 days before passing away on November 4th, 1982, at the age of 22. However, what made the case even more horrifying was that John Sweeney was sentenced to 6 years in prison and served only 3.5 years before being released, causing public outrage. Actor Julian Beck, who played the terrifying villain Reverend Henry Kane in Poltergeist 2, 1986, was diagnosed with stomach cancer shortly after filming. He died in 1985 before the film was released. Many believed that his role was so terrifying that it seemed to attract negative energy, which made his illness worse. Will Sampson, who played the Indian shaman Taylor in Poltergeist 2, was a Native American with strong beliefs in the spiritual world. When he learned that the film crew had used real human bones, Sampson performed a cleansing ritual on the set himself in an attempt to exorcise the disturbing spirits. However, just a year later, in 1987, Sampson died from complications following a heart and lung transplant, adding to the suspicions of a curse. The most heartbreaking tragedy of Poltergeist was the death of Heather O'Rourke on February 1, 1988, when she was only 12 years old. Heather's death not only shocked Hollywood, but was also the final death in a series of tragedies of the Poltergeist curse, leading many to believe that supernatural forces existed. Although there are many spiritual theories surrounding the deaths of the cast of Poltergeists, scientists and skeptics believe that it is all just a coincidence. They argue that these events can be explained by real factors, unrelated to any supernatural forces. According to skeptics, Dominique Dunne's death was a result of domestic violence when she was murdered by her boyfriend, who had shown signs of controlling and violent behavior. This has no connection to spiritual or supernatural factors, but is simply a personal tragedy. As for Julian Beck, scientists have explained that he already had stomach cancer before filming Poltergeist 2, and his death can be explained as a natural result of the disease. The fact that Beck knew he had the disease and was treated before filming, therefore, his death cannot be considered an act of revenge by any force. As for Will Sampson, skeptics believe that he had a history of serious heart and lung disease, which led to complications after an organ transplant. His death after a heart and lung transplant can be understood as part of his inherent health condition, not due to a curse or any supernatural factors. Finally, Heather O'Rourke's death was explained by a medical error. Doctors diagnosed her with Crohn's disease, but in fact, she had a congenital intestinal atresia, and the wrong treatment led to septic shock and death after emergency surgery. Scientists believe that the deaths were the result of a medical error, not a supernatural intervention. However, for those who believe in spirituality, 4 consecutive deaths in a popular series like Poltergeist are too unusual and strange to simply dismiss as coincidence. They believe that these events could be signs of a real curse, especially when they occur in an environment that involves paranormal elements, such as the use of real human bones in the filming. Whether or not one believes in the curse, Poltergeist and the deaths associated with it remain one of the most famous and haunting horror stories in Hollywood history. The legend of this curse continues to fascinate the public, becoming an indispensable part of the urban legend of horror. Legacy. Despite passing away at the age of just 12, Heather O'Rourke left an indelible mark on the history of horror cinema. She is remembered by millions of viewers around the world for her role as Carol Ann Freeling in the Poltergeist trilogy, an innocent, pure character who is caught up in a vortex of terrifying supernatural phenomena. One of Heather's most famous moments is the legendary line, "They're here. Here they come, John." This line has not only become one of the most classic lines in the horror film genre, but has been repeated many times in films, television shows, and popular culture for decades. Even those who have never seen Poltergeist can recognize this line, showing Heather's lasting influence on cinema. In addition to the famous line, the image of Carol Ann, with her golden hair, big blue eyes, and innocent expression as she stared at a distorted TV screen, has also become a terrifying symbol of the horror film genre. The poster of Poltergeist, with the image of the little girl placing her hand on the spooky TV screen, remains one of the most memorable images of the genre. The passing of Heather O'Rourke on February 1st, 1988, shocked Hollywood and the fan community around the world. She was not only a talented actress, but also known as a sweet, intelligent, and energetic girl, loved and admired by everyone who worked with her. After Heather's death, a series of articles were written about her, expressing regret for a young talent who had passed away. Major magazines such as People, Entertainment Weekly, and The Hollywood Reporter all reported on her death, along with articles paying tribute to Heather's short but memorable journey in the film industry. In the years since, many documentaries about the Poltergeist curse and the tragic stories behind the scenes have also mentioned Heather, helping to keep her name from being forgotten. Some notable documentaries include True Hollywood Story, The Curse of Poltergeist and Cursed Films, Shudder, 2020. The story of Heather's untimely death has also become a wake-up call for the medical profession, especially about the mistakes in diagnosing rare diseases. Many doctors have cited her case as an important lesson in being careful with pathological symptoms in children. Remembering Heather O'Rourke, a little star who shines forever. Heather O'Rourke is currently resting at Westwood Village Memorial Park in Los Angeles, the resting place of many Hollywood legends such as Marilyn Monroe, Dean Martin, and Natalie Wood. Heather's grave is often visited by fans on her birthday and the anniversary of her death. Many people leave roses, stuffed animals, and letters expressing their feelings for the young actress who passed away too soon. Some fans even believe that Heather's spirit is still present around the place where she lived. Additionally, every year, horror websites and forums host tribute posts to Heather O'Rourke, recalling her career and her most memorable moments. Although Heather's life was cut short, her legacy lives on. Carol Ann will never fade from the audience's mind, and her story remains one of Hollywood's most heartbreaking tragedies. What do you think about the Poltergeist curse? Is it just a series of coincidences, or is there a supernatural force behind these tragic deaths? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We would love to hear from you, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more interesting updates. Thank you, and see you in the next videos.